Welcome back. Here we are in the middle of a series of pendulum labs. At this point, you've done pendulum lab number 1, where you should have tested, does the swing, that is the distance it swings, affect how many times it swings in a minute? Does it swing the same number of times as swing per minute, or does the shorter one do more, shorter one do less? And you should have had your analysis and your conclusion written, okay? Now, results might vary a little bit. I'll tell you in my experience, sometimes, especially if it's a lightweight thing, the air resistance can affect the shorter swing. But generally speaking, let me tell you, Galileo, when he looked at that big long chain with the chandelier on it when he was sitting in the church, remember I told you about that? And when it was swinging a big distance, it was the same number of swings in 100 heartbeats as when it just barely creeped. Okay? And so he was like, but wait a second, that doesn't make sense. Why would that be? You'd think if it's going just a short distance, it would go a lot more times in 100 heartbeats than if it was going a longer distance. But it turns out it was the same number, exact same number of swings in 100 heartbeats or in a minute, right? And so the distance doesn't affect it. And so Galileo was trying to figure out what's going on here. How does that work? And so he took it back and studied it. And remember, one thing that's cool about a simple system like a pendulum is you can really get it down to the basics, right? And try to get some of the fundamental rules about how this reality we live in that's so complex and chaotic, how does it really work? It all comes down to some simple basic rules, right? And Galileo was one of the ones that discovered some of those rules, inventing the field of what's called mechanics now. All right, so here's the deal. He figured out, okay, if it's just going a little bit back and forth in the same amount of time as it takes it to swing like this, what's going on is it moves a lot faster. It goes with a lot more speed, more velocity, it's called, when it's going back and forth. So it takes it the same amount of time to get from one side to the other, whether it's swinging this long way or whether it's just swinging this short way. And what he realized is when you release it, the pendulum, it's like it's on a ramp, sort of, right? If you picture releasing a ball on a ramp that's tilted this much, how fast will the thing go? Well, it'll go that fast, okay? But if you release it from a ramp that's this steep, how fast will it go? Way faster, right? And so here, what you're doing, it's this angle of release that will determine how fast it goes. And so what the point he ended up sort of mathematically describing it, and we're not going to get into the mathematics of it, but the point is he was figuring out how it works by isolating individual variables, separating the impact of the distance it swings, how much mass is on it, and the length of the string. Okay. Now, what you guys are going to do is another lab, but instead of changing the distance it swings, you're going to change the length of the string. Okay? Now, that one here, I could set it up and show you, oh, look, I'm attaching it when it's longer. Follow the directions. Try get it to what the length is supposed to be. Remember, like I said before, always measure to the middle of the weight you're using. I want to also remind you, don't do anything that anybody's going to get hurt, right? Don't be swinging some bowling balls around. You're not going to be having any of that. Always get your parents' approval and they can approve your pendulum. It's safe. It's like, oh no, that's my grandma's finest china. Don't do that. Use something that is not fragile, not valuable, not going to hurt the floor if it falls, not going to hurt you if it hits you. Okay. Also, be kind of careful with how you attach it to wherever you attach it to. This one here, length of string. Go for it.